My name is Lakshmi Ajay, and I'm an associate editor with Stack Media. And today I'm in conversation with Raphael Kiptis. He's the head of finance at Sian Roses. Welcome, Raphael. I wanted to firstly ask you, what can you tell us about Sian Roses' market presence today in terms of numbers? What kind of volumes do we generate annually? How many varieties of roses do we grow? How many employees do we have? What markets do we reach out to? And what kind of infrastructure does the organization have?
Thank you for having me in this interview. Sian Flowers is one of the leading producers of fresh cut flowers, and we export, let's say, 99.9% of our products to various markets, majorly Europe. We have partly Dubai. We do a lot to UK, but some to Australia, and also some to locally to South Africa. And we produce an estimate of around 120 to 130 million stems in a year. That translates to maybe 10 to 11 million stems a month in all our four farms, which are based geographically in different locations in Kenya. And we proud ourselves of being an employer of 2,500 employees, and all of them are under permanent basis. And we do support them a lot because we subscribe to a lot of standards, which ensure that the products we produce a humane manner, which covers staff welfare and protects the environment. And those bodies are like Kenya Flower Council, I'm sure you're aware of. We have FLO, we have MPS, and we have Global Gap. Basically, we proud ourselves of being one of the founders of the floriculture industry. And in total, our area is 170 hectares, and of that, 135 hectares is on roses and 35 hectares of summer flowers, which we recently started. For summer flowers is to ensure that we create a one-stop shop for all our customers so that they don't need to go to various growers to buy our products. And we are also the single producer of spray roses in the world, having the biggest area because we do around 80 hectares of spray roses. And recently we joined hands with other growers to form a group called Wall of Sprays with one of the leading breeders in Kenya, so that we popularize the uptake of spray roses. And that is our pride.
The flower trade is currently feeling a pressure from the high inflation which we are seeing in such parts of the world. Sure. And there's geopolitical tensions, there's the Russia-Ukraine war which is going on. So this has put a kind of a pause in the business of flowers, right? But we know that it is on a slow rebound again. Many growers told us that the flower industry was in a kind of a wait and watch mode when it comes to demand, right? So I wanted to understand what were some of the signals that you got from the Aalsmeer auction in Netherlands, which takes place in November. How is the demand placed today? And what is the outlook for the flower trade this year going forward?
Yes, there was that kind of drop in demand, particularly COVID came and it didn't really affect the demand so much, but the conflicts between Russia and Ukraine stabilized because it led to high cost of production because again, we import a lot of fertilizer and mainly fertilizer from China and Russia. So when those separations came, it distorted our production. Then it messed up with the inflation in Europe. Europe is actually the biggest consumer of our flowers. So we saw the drop, and what I can say is there's been a wait and see on how the industry will go. But we've seen from the recent Valentine update that slowly by slowly, people are getting used to the current situation, and the flower demand is picking up. But for me, I attribute it to a situation where a lot of European farmers have either stopped or they have scaled down. So the scaling down of the Euro production, it has given a window for the African production so that they are able to fill the gap of what used to be produced in Europe and vis-a-vis what we export. So the demand will slightly maintain because of drop in production, mainly in Europe region. So we see a positive outlook, particularly because there are so many innovations coming in. Like people are trying to mitigate increase on cost of production by coming up with organic ways of growing. So personally, I feel the floriculture industry has a long way in terms of continual support, and it's a very resilient industry, by the way. It's not the first time we face these challenges. Over time, we come to adjust to the current situations. So we feel there's a positive outlook, and flower sector, for me, is here to stay.
Legroom in freighters and bellies of aircrafts has been a constant struggle for the flower exporters in Africa. Perishables have historically been a low-value commodity, thereby shrinking in the available space in air cargo. What is the current situation and what needs to change here at our district? Has there been a let-up in the air freight rate, or do you foresee normalcy to come in the air freight rates to happen this year?
Maybe to correct you, Lakshmi, I don't think flowers are treated as low commodity. They are treated as a bulk commodity, meaning they take a bigger volume for you to achieve a kilogram. So the airline are always shy of it because they use too much space to get a specific grammage. But in principle, they are not low-value products. So what has happened is we've seen a drop on the air cargo, on the price of the freight. We could see that in Valentine. The previous Valentine prices could go up to around maybe $5 a kilo. This year, we maintain something around $3 a kilo. So we see a positive improvement. And in terms of space availability, it has improved. We used to struggle a lot, like during COVID time on space. But for the last 6 months, we've seen support coming from the air cargo to the willingness to uplift our products. So basically, there's a lot of development coming. And again, I think maybe they're scared of sea freight coming. So we believe it will grow well.
So, good point that you raised. This brings me to my next question, which is that one of the outcomes of the pandemic was that the sea route began to become viable for the flower trade from Africa. Flowers and perishables are literally and metaphorically put to sleep for their journey to Europe, Australia, and Asia. So, has Sian Roses pilot tested the sea route to Sian Roses? What has been the review? What was the size of the consignments that you sent via sea, and how many days does it take to the destination? So, if you could briefly take us through this new journey that Roses are being taken.
We are not piloting. We are doing as a group. For the last 1 year, I think we've done something like around 20 containers by sea. Most of them during a COVID period. And we continually do between 1 to 2 containers a month by the sea. What we do on our side is that we ship our flowers mainly during high production time, but low demand. So that by the time the demand picks up in Europe, the flowers are there. It takes an average of 26 to 30 days from Port of Mombasa to Rotterdam. And that has been really very positive because the flowers are not put to sleep, but they are put in favorable conditions so that by the time they reach on the other destination, they are still fresh and they're able to do the same vast life for between 10 to 20 days, which is very positive. Actually, if you put like to like for a consumer, you will not know a sea freight flower and a air freight flower. They are the same and they take the same vast life period. So it's something we are pushing, and we are working very closely with a lot of service providers. We have providers who are good in solutions to keep the flowers fresh. We work closely with agents like Nagel and Musk, who provide river containers all the way, and they're able to track for us. We're able to know where is the cargo, the temperature, all conditions on the container. So it's coming out well. And yes, and as Sian, we will continue to participate and use sea freight as not an alternative, but part of an option of transporting our flowers to Europe, basically because it is part of a key long-term measure to contribute towards climate change mitigation.
We heard a lot of talk about how the African continental free trade area may also be a boon to perishables trade in the continent and how cross-country trade could flourish between African nations. Do you see a potential for roses in this new emerging economic climate? And does AfCFTA have potential to change things for the very dynamic rose trade as well?
Majorly provide removal of trade barriers. I can give an example. We export flowers to South Africa and they are charged between 10 to 15% as import duty. We are still in the same continent of Africa. So we believe with that freedom, with that policy, it will then remove trade barriers and South Africa will be able to purchase Kenyan flowers freely, and that will increase more business for us. Second one, we believe it will create the open air policy. It is ongoing. It has been ongoing discussion. With that, it means then that you see the way now, Lakshmi, an air freighter comes to Nairobi, Ethiopian Airlines, it has to go back to Ethiopia to get rights to land in Liège. But now with the free air policy, it means it leaves Nairobi direct to Liège. So we'll save an estimate of around 10 to 15% on air cargo, which for me, I believe it's going to be a very big boost to the flower sector.
What are some new markets that the flower industry in Africa is exploring? Are you looking at the African continent you just mentioned? It's also an emerging market courses. Because what are the other new areas?
Consumption of flowers in Africa is not big, but we are building up. We are looking at majorly South Africa because the market is already there. It's just about those small trade barriers. Another market for us, you see, is Nigeria. It's coming up because Nigerian consumers get flowers from South Africa here. We want to see and whether we can have it leave directly Nairobi to Nigeria because KQ flies there every day. So we want to take advantage of that. But basically, there's a low demand of flowers in Africa. But those two countries, we've seen an increase in demand.
And what about outside Africa?
Outside Africa, we are focusing more to build up Dubai and UAE because we've seen they've come out very strong, particularly during COVID time. And the demand of flowers has picked up. And the beauty thing is a very short flight. It's around 4 hours. So the flowers, you can service a customer with a very quick notice. But the rest, like Australia, Europe, UK, remain steady. And we continue to build that market.
And China?
China, again, we still have challenges on trade barriers. You will be surprised that Chinese government charge between, I think, 10% on Kenyan flowers. So we are having a discussion with the Ministry of Trade so that they can have that thing waived, so that Chinese can really uptake our flowers with peace.
So is this a current discussion that's going on with the Kenyan Flower Council and the...
Not Kenya Flower Company, but Kenya Ministry of Trade and Industry.
I think digitalization and sustainability are very important to Sian Roses. What can you tell us about how you bring sustainability to your growing practices? You just mentioned today about solar power rubbing at your farms. If you could talk about it.
For us to build sustainability, we need to reduce cost of production. And one of it is power. You're aware, Kenyan power cost is quite high. So for the last year, we implemented a 1.7 megawatts solar in all our farms. And that one, the aim is to reduce cost of power by around 35 to 40%, which we've done. I think so far we are at 35%, heading towards 40%. We've also done a lot of growing practices. We are now making our own biofertilizer by use of worms. So we do worm juice to supplement fertilizer cost. And we do a lot of recycling. Like we recycle like around 80% of our water by implementing good digital technology. We measure the humidity and temperature of our greenhouse before we irrigate. So basically, we implement a lot of technological bio solutions to ensure that we reduce our cost.
What are some recent resolutions and discussions of the Kenyan Flower Council, one of the important apex trade bodies that represent the flower industry? We know that ePhyto has been implemented. Does it work satisfactorily and has it achieved industry-wide acceptance yet? What are some new directions that the association and flower traders of India are looking to bring more growth to Africa?
The single window approach is yet to be fully taken through, but it's a very good idea. We were part of the pilot for this project. We've seen tremendous improvement on it. We are pushing for it and we'll continue to push. So that the aim is that when you upload your documents in the single window, all the customers... Yes, there's another one called TLIP, where it is in conjunction with the Netherlands government, so that they don't need to send these documents via on paper. We want to have it paperless. It's coming out well. The single window is coming out well. The other thing which we're pushing KFC is to push the government to fast track free air policy, so that we don't need to have a lot of airlines going to their country of origin and then there's travel to the other side. So those few, there are many. There's also fight on Europe. Have been every year they increase the number of restricted quarantine pests, and the number has been growing. It's like everything is growing every day. It makes growing and exporting very tedious. So those are things we are pursuing as a group to have government be lenient, because some of them are even non-harmful pests, and they're already in that country where we're shipping our flowers. So those are the main ones. To minimize a full inspection for our flowers. Because that will really mess in terms of handling and quality.
Thank you for this conversation.
You're welcome, Rashmi. Thank you.